say legends are born where the rubber meets the asphalt. As the engines roar, passion ignites. Each drift tells us a story, a tale of control and chaos. This is not just a race, it's a battle of wills, a dance of machines pushing the limits. A journey through the very soul of drifting.
Test hey. Drivers and drift fans, welcome to the 2025 Concept Drift Series Driver Search. I will be your master of ceremonies today, Paul Mox, co-owner of Concept Drift Series, here in the booth, joined by my two other judges, Matt Temple and Justin. We call him Python. He is our data and physics and engineering guru here at CNDS. So once again, the whole CNDS production team is happy to have you all here with us today. We're going to see 32 head-to-head battles for drivers trying to gain invitation into the 2025 CNDS season. Along with that becomes thousands of dollars in prizes, sponsored sim equipment, and the coveted Virtual Drift Championship license, which this season we will be giving away 5 of to our top 5 non-VDC competitors. So once again, settle in. We are about to send our first pair down the chute of this beautiful redone version of Shannonville in the beautiful state of Canada, country of Canada, sorry. As we move on to our first battle, we're going to have Marcel Zambborski in the lead, Levi Adland in the chase, and Marcel in that beautiful JZX Chaser. As soon as the judges and the production team are ready, we are going to go ahead and send them. All right, as we get our production team and our drivers ready, I want to go ahead and thank our 2025 series sponsors, Virtual Drift Championship, our official partner providing cars and physics for the CNDS season. Also, Drift HQ coming on board. We have Boundless Racing, Hannah Motors, Temple Productions, and Moxie Media, who both do the track layouts and track building. Geronimo Designs providing us some track items and some track builds for previous seasons as well. So thanks again to all of our series partners and sponsors. We're going to go ahead and get this first battle underway. Once again, we're going to have Marcel leaving Levi. Go ahead and make some noise for him in the chat as we send that first group down. Here they go. Those lights are lit. They are off. Levi, big flick in, on throttle right away. Gets a good amount of the zone, a little waver to connect to that first inner guideline. Good momentum. Levi dives up on the door, a little contact with the wheel. Let's see how he does. Nice controlled angle, hits the decel perfectly. Levi needing to make up a little ground. And it looks like Marcel dropping a tire going into outer 6, hits the decel for 7 and lights the car off. Could be a little deeper into that last zone, but overall, not a bad run. They're going to go ahead and switch it up and bring it back around. Here we go, all for that second half. Levi in the S15 charging. Quick flick in. Marcel needing to make up some ground. Gets about the same amount of outer zone 1. Transitions the car, looking nice and locked in. Marcel diving up on the door. Looking good at the power alley. Little decel, but looks like a slight over rotation from the lead. The chase manages to back off just in time. Dives on the door, kicks up some dirt from the lead driver. And as they both go plowing into the last zone, Marcel dives on the door at the very end. Let's see what judges have to say. All right, and the winner of that battle is going to be Marcel. Moving on, he is going to get an invitation into the series. So in the JZX, Marcel putting it down. Next battle is going to be Austin LaFlame and Terrence Grant. All right, here we go. We got Austin in the lead. The lights are lit, and they are off. Second battle of driver search. Sending it in the S15. Austin flicks it in. Big momentum. Pedals the car a little bit. Doesn't quite get outer one. A little off of that guideline. Little offline, it looks like. Trying to gather the car up and get back to where he wants to be. Terrence doing everything to stay behind him, but cannot. And they go off track. Looks like they're going to have to switch it up and run that second half. All right, here we go. We are lined up for that second half of that battle. We're going to have Terrence in the lead, Austin in the chase. And they are off. Terrence in that Mustang, Shelby, Super Snake. Big entry, on throttle, a lot of side bite. Could have been a little deeper in outer zone 1, but finding himself on the rhythm. Looking good so far. Comes in that outer zone 4 with a little bit of angle. Hits the decel nice and lines himself up for outer zone 5. Here's where he has to do the work. Oh, looks like a little bit of contact in the chase. Trying to hit that transition timing, and they just get a little twisted up there. Judges will have to take a look at that and see what happened. All right, and it looks like judges do have a decision. It looks like Terrence is going to take the win on that one and get his invitational spot into the season. So, awesome job to Terrence. Unfortunate for Austin. Looked like he just struggled to get it gathered up there behind him. So, once again, appreciate both drivers coming out. All right, next up, we're going to have Daniel Kamacho leading Justin Anderson. He did. All right, here we go. We are lined up. We got Daniel Kamacho in the lead, Justin Anderson in the chase. The lights are lit. Let's send them. And they are off. Daniel in that Supra, a little bit of angle correction there. Justin finds himself on the door. Kamacho kind of running a little shallow in the zones, really struggling to find himself on the line there. Justin doing a great job of following the lead car. Kamacho transitions nicely, but over that guideline yet again. And Anderson at this point just has to stay behind him and do the work as they cross the finish. All right, they're going to get switched out. All right, here we go. We got Justin Anderson in the lead. Daniel Kamacho in the chase. Supra on Supra crime. The lights are lit. And here they go through the cones. Justin shifting the gears. Flicks it in with a straight line initiation. Big speed. Little foot brake to set him off. Daniel dives on the door as they cross guide 2. Coming out to outer 3. Justin is on a rails here. Hits the decel and sets the car up for outer 5, floating. Daniel is doing everything he can to keep up with that lead car. They float out and finally connect. Looks like a little bit of contact there, keeping the lead from transitioning. We'll have to take a second look at that for sure. All right, and judges just reviewing that footage, making sure we get the right call with that contact here. As soon as we get a decision, we'll give it to you. All right, and judges do have a decision. Looks like it is going to go to Justin Anderson. From the footage we can see, it looks like Kamacho just kept him from transitioning into that last zone. So Anderson is going to move on. And next up, we're going to have our final battle of our first group of 8. Arias Jamontis leading Mike Prescowski. We have one. Yeah, for the people asking, we are streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now, so you take your pick of which you'd rather watch. Find CNDS on both. All right, so looks like we have our next battle up here. They are at the start line. Once again, Arias leading Mike, sorry. And we are ready to send them. Here we go. And they are off to the races here. BMW initiates Skyline on the door, kicks in the throttle. Mike says, "Where you going, buddy? I'm right here with you. You can't outrun it." They transition. The second guideline, little bit of rubbing's racing. Here we go. Let's see what happens in outer 4. Big angle from the BMW. Can the chase gather it up? They move to outer 5, looking good. Nice controlled. Oh, but it looks like the lead goes a little bit offline. and over rotates a touch going into the final zone. They'll have to swap it out and run it back. They are swapped out and ready to go. We got Prescowski in the lead in the Nissan Skyline. Arias, Jamontis, and that BMW in the chase. A little shallow into the first zone. Arias catches up as they cross the first guideline, or sorry, that second guideline. The Skyline's finding himself where he wants to be. Looking good at the decel. Gets back onto it, going into outer 5. As they transition through outer 6, nice and controlled from the Skyline, looking good. Let's see how he looks going into the final outer zone. On rails as he pedals down and drives through. Tiny tire drop at the end. Oh man, that's going to be a close one. I think it's going to come down to who made more mistakes, because it was a definitely pretty close battle. All right, so judges do have a decision. Looks like Prescowski going to walk away with the win on that one. Just a little slightly better lead and chase. Both drivers making mistakes, but tallying up the mistakes, it looked like Mike made just a few less. So we're going to go ahead and get our next group of 8 drivers in, and we will be right back with you. Stay tuned to CNDS. All right, we've got our first battle up to the line of that next group. Alex, Rogachof, Anthony, Norfolk in that beautiful Corvette. Lights are lit. Let's send them. Alex through the cones. Chucks it in. Anthony right there on his door as they move across that first guideline in the outer two. Alex putting the pedal down. Little shallow in outer zone 4, but diving in the outer 5, getting the most of it. Anthony right on his door there. Nice coming across that inner clip, and in the outer 7, a little waver from the chase, but they gather it up across the finish. Beautiful run. All right, here we go. Second part of that battle. Anthony, Norfolk in the lead. Alex, Rogachof in the chase, and they're off. Corvette puts the pedal down, rowing through the gears, flicks it in. Gets a good chunk of that first outer zone. Alex right on the door as they transition. Coming in that outer zone 5, both cars looking great. Drivers on the line might have been a little tire drop from the lead there, but they managed to gather it up. And the BMW closing the gap as they move across the finish line. All right, and judges do have a decision. Looks like Alex is going to take the win. Next battle, we are going to have Luke Marggetson leading Rodrigo, Carvalo. Two Nissans, R33 versus 2JZ, S15. Let's see what they've got for one another. We appreciate everybody with us today, checking out the CNDS 2025 driver search, brought to you by all of our partners, sponsors. We're happy to have them along for the ride this season of CNDS. And next, we have Luke at the start line in the lead, Rodrigo in the chase in that 2J S15. The lights are lit. Let's send them. Making their way down the chute. Lighting the tires off is the Skyline. Luke goes one tire over, has to pedal a little bit. Manages to gather the car up, finds himself back on the line there. The chase diving in, closing that gap as they move across to outer zone 5. Oh, a little bit of contact going into outer 7, it looks like. Now we'll have Rodrigo in the lead in the S15 for the second half of that battle. All right, here they go, second part of the battle. And they are off. Rodrigo in the lead. Luke in the chase. Rodrigo, a little bit of a gap on the chase car. Off to the races. Here we go. The chase finally getting caught up, but still not maintaining the proximity we would like to see. Rodrigo getting the most of the zones, hits the decel and gets right back on throttle going into outer 5. The chase trying to do everything he can to catch up. Little tire drop from the lead. And it looks like a tire drop from the chase in that final zone. I'm sure not the runs both drivers were looking for, but I think judges will be able to come away with a winner. All right, and it does look like the judges have a decision. Rodrigo is going to take the win. And our next battle going to be Liam Akiko leading his teammate Dylan Davis. Here we go, getting to the start line is Liam in that Supra. Dylan in that BMW. Production team is ready, here we go. And they are off. Liam, Supra, Dylan, BMW, they both flick in. Teammate on teammate crime. You can tell these guys drive together as their mirror image of each other going into outer zone 1, 2, and the guideline. Dylan right on the door gets a little out of rhythm with his opponent, but manages to gather it back up. Both cars wavering going into outer 5, but they settle into it. Big angle in outer 6. Dylan falls a little off. Liam puts the throttle down, wavers a little in the last zone, but they finally come together across the finish. Here we go. For the second part of that battle, we're going to have Dylan in the lead, Liam in the chase. The candles are going, and they are off to the races. Dylan throws the car in. Liam dives on the door. Dylan has to foot brake a little bit. Settles the car up. Liam diving on the door with good proximity. Puts a little bit of a gap between himself and the lead car. Dylan throttles in the outer zone 5. The chase wavering quite a bit as they come across, looking good at inner clip. As they come into that final outer zone, Dylan gets on throttle. All right, judges have reviewed the footage. They've watched the replays back. This was a close battle. It literally comes down to just a couple of minor mistakes. And the signal is coming across the judge's desk. Dylan Davis is going to take the win. All right, next battle up, we are going to have Zach Miller, Bun Shiesty, as he's known throughout the community, an absolute staple, leading Yun Chang Laauo, a new face to CNDS. All right, they are making their way to the start line. Man, that was a barn burner of a last battle. Just to give a little bit of an explanation from what we looked at as judges, and what, you know, two of the judges definitely took note of was in the first run, looked like Liam had a couple spots where he decelled outside of decells, kind of going into outer zone 5. He had a big checkup, kind of backheat at outer zone 6. So just a few things that judges did not want to see. But we've got the next battle up to the line. Here we go. Zach Miller in the lead. Yun Chang Laauo in the chase. The lights are lit and they are off to the races. Here we go. Looks like a little bit of a gap between Yun and Zack as they move through the power alley. The Supra not really getting into the zones, trying to gain proximity. The Mustang is off to the races. He is set it and forget it in his angle, throttled down. Zack is a rocket ship, and the chase doing everything he possibly can to try and catch up. Let's have him swap it around. Swapped around. Let's get him sent down the road. Laauo in the chase. Or I'm sorry, Laauo in the lead. Miller in the chase. They flick it in. Miller on the door immediately. The Supra gets all of outer one. Foot brakes a little bit to come into that inner. The Mustang doing what he needs to do. Close proximity through the power alley. Sets himself up for the dive into outer zone 5, and he does. Great proximity through the later part of the course from the chase. The lead right on the line, looking good. Nice and balanced as they come into the final zone. Oh no, the chase slips up on that rumble. Oh, that might be the biggest upset we've seen so far. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Yun is going to take the win. Unfortunately, that mistake from Zack on the going into the last zone cost him the battle, but it looked like he had the clear advantage leading up to that. It's unfortunate to see it. All right, we are going to take a quick 30-second break while we get our next group of 8 in for their battles. We'll be right back with you. All right, we are back with our next battle. We're going to have Delancey Bryant leading Jordan Thompson. Just had one driver join the server. We are waiting for that ping to calm down, and we are going to send them. All right, here we go. Twin S15s, and they are off to the races. Both cars flicking it in. Delancey sets the angle up. Looks like he could be a little deeper into that first clip. Delancey running low angle. Could be throwing a little more. Chase finally catches up to the door of Delancey. Dirt kicks up as they come across outer 6, firing into the final zone and coming across the finish. All right, we've got them switched out for the second half. Jordan in the lead, D. Bryant in the chase. Here we go, sending them. Jordan getting the most of outer zone 1. Transitions the car into outer 2. Bryant falling a little behind as they transition through the power alley. Both cars moving nicely into outer zone 5. The chase wavers a small amount. Jordan looking good as he comes across the inner clip. As they make their way into the final outer zone, Jordan pedals down. Delancey trying to catch up. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Jordan is going to take the win. As we get our next battle up, Jeff Dean leading Daniel. As they come to the start line. We've got Jeff in the lead in that Mazda RX-8. We've got Daniel in the chase in the JZX. Judges are ready to go. Let's send them. And they're off. Oh, RX-8 pedals a little bit going into the first outer zone. The chase has nowhere to go. Trying to find himself on the layout is the lead. Chase trying to find himself on the rhythm of the lead car. The lead peeling out of outer zone 5 a little early. Coming across outer 6 to the inner, they look good. Let's see how they do coming into the final zone. The lead wavers a little. The chase mirrors and follows him over the finish. Let's switch it out. All right, we've got them swapped out. Daniel in the lead, Jeff in the chase. Toyota Chaser, Mazda RX-8. Japanese Muscle takes off like a shotgun. It's a drag race. The RX-8 is doing everything possible to catch up. The JZX with the wheelbase advantage through the power alley. Daniel on a beautiful lead run. The car is on rails. Set it and forget it angle through outer 6, a little over the inner, but nothing hateful. Coming into outer 7, gets on throttle and uses that power to dig out. What a beautiful lead run from Daniel in the Chaser. All right, folks, looks like Daniel Lee going to take the win on that one in the JZX Chaser. As we move into our next battle, we're going to have Ryan Shitty leading John Bott. All right, they are at the start line. Here we go. Ryan Chitty in the lead. We've got John Bott in the chase. Ryan, S15, takes off. John initiates behind him. Ryan has to pedal the car out to the zone a little bit. Gives the opportunity to the chase to catch up in that big JZX. Falling behind a little bit. Let's see how they do through the power alley. Ryan looking solid. Back on throttle going into outer zone 5. The chase should be a little closer. He needs to take this opportunity to dive in, and he does as Ryan throws the angle on the slow. Coming into the final outer zone, Ryan sets himself on the line, and John dives onto the door for a beautiful coming across the finish from both drivers. I stand corrected. That's an S14. I apologize for those, making sure I'm doing my job right in the chat. Appreciate you. All right, here we go. We're swapped out. We've got John Bott in the Toyota Corolla in the lead. We've got Ryan Shitty in the Dodge Caliber in the chase. The lights are lit, and here they go. Off to the races is John in the JZX. Ryan says, here we go, get back. We're dropping tire in the outer one. Ryan, a grip machine, is that Tesla Model S. Ford Taurus going into outer zone 5 is John Bott. Good proximity from the chase as they move across into that next guideline. A little dive, little waver, little shimmy and shake into the outer zone 7. The chase gets out of sorts and into the dirt. Oh no! All right, and judges do have a decision. Looks like John is going to take the win. Unfortunately, that double tire drop from Ryan in that final zone, damn near parking the car, having no choice but to gather it up and drive back on the track. Judges do not like to see that one bit. So, John Bott going to get the win. Next battle going to be... Next battle up going to be Keanu leading Nquille. All right, here we go. We've got our next pair up. Keanu, Askew in the lead. Nquille, Watker in the chase. This time an actual Nissan S15, a BMW. Keanu flicks the car in. Nquille making up some ground with that horsepower, that raw BMW muscle. Keanu a little offline there. Nquille finding himself right where he wants to be. Dives up into the pocket for outer zone 5. A little bit of a tire drop from the lead there, having to pedal it out. Nquille managing nicely to stay behind the lead car, doing what he needs to do. Driving through that final zone as the lead peels out of it a little bit. All right, here we go. They are swapped out. Nquille in the lead, Keanu in the chase. The candlesticks are lit. Nquille in the lead. Keanu in the chase. They flick it in. Little tire drop from Nquille. Keanu manages to gather the car up. Nquille looking solid through outer 4. The chase diving on the door coming into outer zone 5. Super close as they come across the next inner clip. The chase dives on the door with a little bit of contact. And I think that contact is what may have sent the lead wide into that final zone. Judges will have to review it and get back with a discussion. All right, and judges do have a decision. Looks like Nquille is going to move on. Unfortunately, that contact from Keanu causing Nquille to go a little deeper and not be able to transition in enough time, sending him off track in outer zone 7. All right. Looks like we just got to get our next group of 8 drivers in, so we will be right back with you. All right. We are back. For our first battle of this next group, we're going to have Jack Lay leading Devin Fenture. Jack, first one of these we've seen, A70 Supra. All right, here we go. The lights are lit. Jack Lay in the lead. Devin Fenture in the chase. Side-by-side initiation. Both drivers throwing it in outer one. Could have been a little deeper. Devin matching the lead step for step. Diving onto the door there is Devin. Jack looking solid going through the power alley. Looking good on the decel there. Going in that outer zone 5. Devin diving onto Jack's door, coming into that final outer zone 7, matching perfectly. Beautiful run from both drivers. All right. Swapped out, second part of that battle. Devin leading Jack. Here we go, the lights are lit. And they are off. Devin throwing the car in. Much deeper in the outer zone 1. Jack close on the door. Great proximity moving into the next outer zone 3. Looks like a slight tire drop from the chase. Devin looking really solid coming across the next outer. Let's see what happens as they come into that final outer zone. Devin pulling away. Jack coming to the door at the very end. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Devin going to move on. Jack Lay having a tire drop in the chase, and Devin filling a couple of the zones just a little better. Outer zone 1 being one of them. And it looked like Jack kind of fell off a little bit in the chase in that last outer zone. So probably the closest battle we have seen so far today. Great driving from both. Certainly both drivers capable of being here and deserving to be here. Next up, we'll have Elias Nasser leading Leon Smith. Here we go as they make their way to the start line. All right, here we go. We've got Elias in the lead, Leon in the chase. And they are off. E46 in the lead, A90 in tow. Elias throws the car in. Beautiful into outer zone 1. Good amount of angle. The chase trying to find his way onto the door. But Elias, with every turn, put in a little more of a gap on Leon. Small tire drop from the lead, but Leon still far behind. Finally catches up going into outer 5. Elias with a big gap driving away from the chase car. Shoots it into the last zone, and the chase going 2 tires off. Let's get it swapped out. All right, we are switched around. Leon Smith leading. Elias in the chase. Here we go. As they flick it in, Leon with a little bit of a gap, but Elias quickly catching up as they come across outer zone 2 into the power alley. Outer 3 connecting to outer 4. Elias having to do a little bit of catching up. Leon not really getting any of 05. Transitioning across 6. Let's see how they look coming into the final zone. Little late on throttle is the lead. All right, and judges do have a decision. Looks like Elias gonna take the win. Unfortunately, Leon going 2 tires, almost 3 off in his chase run there. So Elias gonna move on. All right, our next battle is already at the start line. We have Zack Atkinson in the lead, Riley Durham in the chase. Let's go ahead and send them. Corvette S15, 2 hot rods. Zack off to the races. Here we go. Connects outer 1, looking good at the first guideline. Riley needs to play a little bit of catch up. Finally finds his way onto the door. Needs to stay in time with Zack through the power alley. Good decel zone. Zack locked in for angle. Could be a touch deeper in 5, but overall not hateful. Nice controlled rotation coming through. Riley needs to do that work going into the final zone. Zack powering through and looking good. right. We are swapped around. They are at the start line. Riley Durham in the lead. Zack Atkinson in the chase. Let's light them up. Here we go. Riley flicks it in. Zack right on the door. Good proximity right off the bat. Riley a touch over that guideline. Zack on the correct line. Maybe a little bit of contact there. Hard to tell through the smoke line there, but looking good. Riley coming across the inner. Oh no, Zack gets choked up, it looks like, and is falling behind, unfortunately. All right, judges have decided. Looks like it's going to be an OMT. Equal mistakes from both drivers, it looked like. And they are coming back around to the start line. We'll have Zack in the lead, Riley in the chase. All right, let's see if they can clean it up and give us a better battle. Here we go. Down the straight they go. Corvette fires it in. Goes, oh, unfortunately, going to go 2 wires off. Manages to save it. Gathers it up. Coming into outer zone 5, Corvette getting the most of it. I think at this point, Riley's just kind of hanging back, playing it safe, knowing he just needs to finish that chase run. Zack firing it into the last zone cleanly with Riley right on his door. Still another half of that battle to go. It is not over yet. And here they are coming up to that CNDS tent start line. And the lights are lit. They are off for run 2 of that OMT battle. Riley in the lead. Zack Atkinson in the chase. They throw it in. Riley getting all of outer 1, looking good. And it looks like the chase gets caught up on the wrong side of the lead car. At this point, Riley just needing to finish. Looking great in outer zone 5. Nice and planted as Riley Durham transitions across outer 6. Coming into the final outer zone. Sees the finish, sees the series within his grasp, and clutches it. There he goes across the finish line. I think it's pretty cut and dry on that battle. And judges do have a decision. Looks like Riley gonna take the W there. All right, we are going to go ahead and get into our next group. This will be the second half. So we have 17 battles left to go. We'll do a quick intermission and be right back as we switch to our next server group. Thank you. All right, Drift fans, we are back for the second half of battles of the driver search for the 2025 CNDS series. If you are just now joining us, drivers are fighting their way for an invitation into the 2025 Concept Drift series. So we will see 64 competitors go head-to-head for that coveted spot. But without further ado, our next battle is at the line. We're going to have Drew Flores, A90 Supra, leading Lester Oliveira in that Nissan Z. The judges are ready, the lights are lit, and they are off. Drew flicking it in. Lester needing to pick up a little bit of the pace, trying to make some ground. He takes some angle out of the car and manages to dive in. Drew, slight tire drop in outer 4, hits the D-cell, coming into outer 5, looking pretty good from both drivers. Chucks a bit of angle, Drew does, and drops some tire in outer 6. Lester just trying to find his way onto the door as he does, coming across the finish. All right, we are switched around. Here they go. Lester in the lead, Drew in the chase. Lester flicking the Nissan Z in, setting the angle up, looking good coming through outer zone 1. Drew making a little contact with the door there, bumping Lester deeper into the zone. Little decel from the lead. The chase has to pick up the pace just a bit as they come across. Looking good in outer 6 is Lester coming in. Oh, Drew falls off just a little bit. Lester needs to drive deep into that final zone, which he does, and gets the most of it. Good run. All right, judges coming back with a decision. Looks like Lester going to take the win slightly over Drew. Drew, 2 tire drops in the lead. Lester, slight tire drop in his lead. Looked like Drew also made a contact in the chase, so very, very close battle. Barely edging over to Lester for the win. Next up, we're going to have Frederick Forden leading Kyle Reinmuth. I'm just waiting for this to go. All right, we've got our next battle at the start line. Frederick leading Kyle. S15, S15. Here we go. Oh, Frederick. And with that contact with the chicane from the lead car, judges are going to call a reset. The lead not getting the memo till he finished his run, so we're going to get him back here to the start line and try that again. Frederic Doyon 14 in the lead. Kyle Reinmuth in the chase. Here we go. S15, S15, baby. Let's send them. Watch those cones. We cemented them in. Diving onto the door. Reinmuth falls off a little bit. Frederic, little bit of a gap. Shallow missing outer zone 2. Getting all of outer 3, though, is Frederic. Both drivers struggling just a little bit to find themselves on the line. The chase kind of just sticking to the momentum map, it looks like. Not really sure what to make of this from both drivers. We'll see what the second part of the battle looks like. All right, here we go. Second part of that battle. Kyle in the lead. Fred in the chase. Candlesticks are lit. Here we go. Charging into outer zone 1 is Kyle. Frederic straight lining a little bit behind him, trying to get into angle, trying to set the car up. Kyle looking pretty solid on the layout, looking confident in his lead run. Frederic missing most of the zones to try and catch up, while Kyle is out here putting on an absolute clinic right now, throwing down an absolute heater of a lead. Kyle coming into the final zone with power and confidence over the finish. Judges are back with their decision. Looks like Kyle going to be taking the win on that one, and unfortunately Frederic just falling a little bit short. Next battle up. Looks like Peter Nemeth leading Kyle Maves. All right, here we go. Peter Nemeth, Evo in the lead. Kyle Maves, 2JZS15 in the chase. Kyle, Shannonville native, ready to rip. Here we go. The lights are lit. The chase was sleeping a little bit. Peter is off to the races. The Evo is locked in. The chase needs to do a little bit of catching up. Evo laying it absolutely down on the line. Chase drops a little bit of tire. Evo into outer zone 7. Oh, and it looks like the chase car just overcooks it. Let's get it switched out. right, here we go. Second part of that battle. Oh, looks like we're gonna have to reset. Cement-filled cones will get you every time. All right, here we go. Lights are lit, and they're off. Kyle throws it in the S15. Pete dives on the door in the Evo. They're both looking solid, looking content. Pete is on a mission in the chase. The Evo locked and loaded. Tire drop from the lead. Evo manages to stay composed, mirroring every step. The lead makes another tire drop, lead car, and I think it is in the bag for Pete in that Evo. Judges do have a decision. Pete going to take the win in that beautiful Mitsubishi Evo. Next, we'll have Nick Donato leading Matt Spies. Here we go, two BMWs. Lights are lit. They are off. Nick Donato in the lead. Matt Spies in the chase. Matt Spies, a longtime CNDS competitor. Nick Donato could be a little deeper in outer one. Matty Spies right on his door. Transitions on the bumper, matching the lead step for step. Nick puts a little bit of a gap on him. Matt needs to be aggressive on the dive into outer zone 5. Nick getting the most of the zone. Both cars looking good coming across the inner guide into the last zone. Beautiful run. All right, we are switched around for the second half of that battle. Here we go, BMW on BMW Prime. Matt Spies in the lead. Nick Donato in the chase, charging down the straightaway. Matt throws the E46 in. Nick making up a little ground. Matt drops a tire in outer zone 1. Transitioning across. Nick needing to make up some ground, closes that proximity onto the door. Looking good at the power alley. Coming into outer zone 5 is where things can get hairy, but both drivers gather the cars up. Both BMWs looking super solid, super planted. Coming into outer zone 7. Here is where it all gets put onto the line. Matt Spies comes into a correction. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Nick is going to take the win. As we go get our next group of 8. Hang tight with us at CNDS. All right, we are back. We have our first battle coming up of that next group. We're going to have Jaden Wright leading Evan Diaz. Jaden in that Shelby Mustang. Evan in the chase in that A90 Supra. Let's send them. And here they go. They are off. Jaden throwing the Mustang in. Evan initiates behind him, putting a tire into the dirt. Definitely going to have to play catch-up. Jaden looking solid and locked in so far in the Mustang. Looking good at outer 4. Transitions in the outer 5. The chase really struggling to catch up. Almost driving straight to gain some proximity. Jaden doing everything he needs to do in that Mustang as they cross the finish. Let's get switched out for the second half of that battle. We'll have Evan Diaz in the lead in that A90 Supra. We'll have Jaden in the chase. Here we go. And they're off. Through the chicane, down the chute. Evan flicks it in. Jaden having to play a little bit of catch up here. Evan not quite getting all of outer zone 1. Jaden nearly catching proximity with the lead car. Right now, just kind of hanging out, playing it safe, starting to reel in the lead a little bit. As they come across the next zone, Evan looking solid. Jaden needing to put on the pressure. Coming into the final outer zone, he's starting that dive. Judges do have a decision. Looks like Jaden gonna take the win in that Shelby Super Snake. Next up, we're gonna have Jordy Lopez leading Jake Gordon. And both drivers making their way to the CNDS tent. Once again, CNDS brought to you for the 2025 season by Drift HQ, Boundless Racing, Temple Productions, Moxie Media, Hannah Motors, Geronimo Designs, and the Virtual Drift Championship official partner. Thank you to all of you for hanging out with us on this beautiful Saturday afternoon at Shannonville Motorsports Park. Here we go. Jordy in the lead. Jake in the chase. And they are off. The lights are lit. Corvette taking off here. Throws it in. Gets on throttle. The chase pushing up on the door. Jordy looking solid, looking locked in, getting on line where he wants to find himself. Jake hanging back just a little bit, needs to catch up some ground here. Jordy on absolute rails, fulfilling all of the zones. Little dirt drop there from the lead. Coming into the final outer zone 7, Chase wavering a bit, not really close. All right, here we go. Let's get switched around for that second half. Jake in the lead, Jordy in the chase. Get them lit up. and sending them through the cones. Here we go. Both drivers initiating in. Jake deep into outer zone 1, goes off track, has to bring it back on. Jordy playing it safe, gathering up the proximity a little bit. Both drivers looking good coming into outer zone 5. Jordy really settling into the proximity on the door. Jake looking good on the line. Here's what they need to do coming into the final zone. Jordy diving up onto the door. Wow, judge is going to have to look at that one for sure. Looks like judges do have a decision for us, and Jordy gonna take the win in that Corvette. As we move on to our next battle, Manny Henriquez leading Braden Ardley. Two JZX chasers here, two ships passing in the night. Looking like cargo coming into the port of Baltimore. Please don't knock our bridge down again. All right, here we go. Manny in the lead. Braden in the chase. Two absolute boats. The lights are lit. Keep it between the lines, boys. Manny, big flick in. Looking good on the angle, coming in outer zone 1. Tucks into it is Braden. Little contact there. Driving into the next zone. Manny starting to put a little bit of a gap on the chase driver. Little late getting on throttle as Manny. The chase has to gather himself up here and find his way onto the door. Manny driving around to it, coming into the final outer zone. I'm sure judges would like to see it cleaned up from both drivers. All right, they're back at the line. Braden in the lead. Manny Henriquez in the chase. We've got the lights lit. Let's send them. They throw it in. Braden gets all of outer zone 1 looking solid. Manny transitions onto his door. Oh, looks like the lead over rotates. The chase manages to drive through it. All he has to do is finish. But he doesn't even need to finish because there's no lead to chase anymore. Manny driving his way into the CNDS season, it will look like. Let's see what judges have to say. All right, and it does look like judges are going to have a decision. Manny going to take the win, unfortunately. Braden overcooking it on angle, going into outer 5, taking himself out. Hate to see it. Next battle up, we're going to have Luis Bardales leading Noah Lennox. Luis. All right, judges calling both drivers to the start. We only see one. Luis Bardales, if you are in the house, if you're on the property, if you're in your trailer, if you're in the car, if you're at the hot dog stand, we are starting your 20-second timer now. Once again, thank you to everybody in both the Twitch and YouTube chats for hanging out with us on this beautiful day. Concept Drift Series 2025 driver search at Shannonville Motorsports Park in beautiful Canada countryside. All right. It looks like we are not going to see Lewis. Noah gonna get a walk, a waltz, a gingerly gritty right into the series. As he throws a bye run in. Noah looking solid. A little struggle getting into outer zone 5, but other than that, looking really good on the layout. Roasting tires, shifting gears, putting on a show for us. Congratulations, Noah Lennox. All right, we're going to pause for just a brief moment where we go get our next group in. All right, they're at the start line. Here we go. Jacob D'Alphonse, Alexander Mossberg. The lights are lit. Two A90s. Both drivers looking solid on the line so far. Alex diving up onto the door as they come into the power alley. Jacob, little bit of angle in outer 4, chokes the chase way up. The chase driver doing a great job of getting himself back on the line, maintaining his composure, doing the best with the cards he is dealt. Diving onto the door, coming into the final outer zone is Alexander Mossberg. All right, we've got them switched out. Alexander in the lead, Jacob in the chase. Similar looking cars. Here we go. The lights are lit. And they are off. Alexander cooking in the lead. Throws the car in with nice angle. The chase matching angle perfectly. Diving up onto the door. Coming into that second guideline. Alex with just a little bit of a gap on him. Looking good at outer 4 is Alex. Putting the power down, coming into 5. The chase finally getting that proximity he's looking for. Outer 6, both cars looking good. Once again, Alex with just a slight bit of gap coming into the final zone. A little shove from the chase. All right, it looks like judges do have a decision. Alex gonna take the win. Next up, we're gonna have Daniel Anderson leading Maddie Oravec. Both drivers making their way to the start. Once again, BMW on BMW action. Maddie in that E46 chassis. Daniel in the modern Eurofighter. Here we go. Daniel chucks it in. Oh, little tap from the chase. Daniel not only getting the left of track, coming into outer 5, causing the chase to choke up quite a bit. As they come across the finish. All right, we've got it swapped around. Lights are lit. Maddie in the lead. Daniel in the chase. E46 puts the power down, cooks into that first zone, gets all of the first zone. Daniel making up ground here as they transition through outer zone 2, coming into the power alley. They're doored up. Bumper transition, little tire drop lead. Coming into outer zone 5. Contact from the chase, it looks like, coming into outer zone 6. Both drivers looking good coming into the final outer zone, though. Judges do have a decision. Looks like Maddie gonna take the win. Next up, we're gonna have Dominic Moya leading Juan Lee. making their way to the start. All right, here we go. First RX-7 of the day. Dominic in the lead. Jawan in the chase. Here we go. Fires the rotary up. Gets those RPMs spinning. Mustang closes the gap. Pulls a little angle out, but it seems to have hurt him. He gets out of time with the lead car. Dominic needing to find himself a little bit better on the line as he does, coming into outer 4. Jawan really having to do some work to catch up here. Dominic looking solid. Jawan finally catches up, coming into outer 6. Slight tire drop lead, some contact it looks like coming into that final outer zone from the chase. Let's get them swapped out. A little bit of a tussle going into that final zone, it seems. All right, here we go. Jawan in the lead. Dominic in the chase. As they make their way through the chicane down the chute, Jawan fires it in. Dominic, playing it conservative for now, starts to pour on the proximity a little bit. Bumper transitions coming into that second guideline. Looks like Dominic finding himself in a struggle behind the chase, or behind the lead car, trying to gather it up behind Jawan. And big collision coming into that final zone. Judges are going to have to review that footage and see exactly what took place. All right, judges having to watch back a little bit with some telemetry trying to make sure when people were on throttle, weren't on throttle, and it looks like Jawan gonna take the win on that one. From what we could tell, it looked like the chase just cooked him in a decel zone. All right. We've got our next battle at the line ready to go. Marcus Green leading Jack O'Shaughnessy. And they are off. Here we go. Marcus Green in the lead. Jack in the chase. Marcus throws it in, has to correct angle a little bit. Jack right on the door. Moving into the power alley is Marcus with Jack breathing down his spine. They come into outer four, hitting the decel. Marcus looking solid, looking locked in. Jack doing everything he needs to do in that chase there. Marcus just a little shallow on line there. Jack not bothered by it in the slightest bit. Gathers the car up and drives right through. We are lined up for that second part of that battle. Here we go. Jack O'Shaughnessy in the lead, Marcus Green in the chase, and they are off. Jack down the straightaway, fires it in, initiating beautifully. Marcus needing to play a little bit of catch up here, setting the angle, transitions here, dives onto the door of Jack. Little rubbing, coming into outer four is Jack. Little bit off of line is Marcus. Jack kicks up some dirt at outer zone 6. And across the finish line. Judges do have a decision. Looks like Jack is going to take the win. While we go get our next group of drivers in, this will be our final battle group for the day. All right, we are back with our final battle group here. We're going to have Jeff Osborne leading Kyle Huya as they make their way to the start line. Appreciate all of you guys for sticking it out with us on this beautiful Saturday afternoon here at Shannonville Motorsports Park for the 2025 Concept Drift Series Driver Search as we narrow this field down to 32 drivers for invitations into this season. So let's send our next pair. The lights are lit and they are off. Jeff in the lead, Kyle in the chase. Jeff off to the races. Kyle kicks the Corvette in. Gonna have to play catch up. Jeff laying down a solid lead run. Kyle just hanging a little far back there. Finally dives onto the door, but a little over rotation from the chase. Jeff looking composed, cool, and collected as he fills all of the zones coming into the final zone. Drives out a little bit, but manages to gather it up to cross the finish. And they are off. Second part of the battle. Kyle in the Corvette. Jeff Osborne in that all-new Nissan Z, chucking it in. A little tangle up there going into outer zone 1. Both drivers managed to gather it up, though. Kyle looking good in the lead. Looking like Jeff just going to need to gain some proximity here. Kyle a little late on throttle, getting into outer zone 5. Jeff doing everything he can to stay behind that Corvette. Diving onto the door there. Little contact as they go into the final zone, but they manage to get across the finish. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Kyle going to take the win, citing that contact from the chase in that decel from the Nissan Z, unfortunately. Next up, going to have Evan Kennedy leading Lyle Boogan. All right, it looks like, unfortunately, Evan Kennedy not here. Lyle going to go ahead and get to do his bye run into the season in that beautiful BMW E chassis. Nice flick into outer zone 1. Looking really good coming into outer zone 6. Little dust kicked up, but no big deal. He's the only one out there putting on a show. And across the finish. Next up, we're going to have Brandon Shorten leading Kai Grogan. They are at the start line and ready to go. And the lights are off. Brandon Shorten charging into the first outer zone. Kai Grogan diving up onto the door of Brandon. Both drivers looking solid here as they transition into outer zone 2. Brandon looking good, filling all the zones with the chase right on his tail. Little gap there at outer 4, but the chase starting to make up ground going into outer 5 through that natural decel. Brandon looking solid at outer 6. Here comes the hard part, that dive into outer 7. The chase wobbles a little bit, gets proximity, and looks good. All right, they're swapped around. Here we go for the second part. Kai, lead, Brandon, chase, BMW, identical chassis. Kai flicks it in. Brandon quickly diving onto the door. Kai gets one tire off in outer zone 1. Brandon needs to settle onto the door here, following up into the power alley. Kai looking good at outer zone 4. Brandon making his move in that outer zone 5. On the door of Kai Grogan is Brandon Shorten. Outer 6, both cars looking planted. This is where it gets sketchy. Coming into the final outer zone, Brandon Shorten needs to make his move, and he does at the final zone. All right, judges do have a decision. Looks like Brandon gonna take the win. Next up, Yi Zhang leading Anthony Taylor. And they are at the start line. Second to last battle. Here we go. Zhang, RX-8, Anthony Taylor, A90 Supra. They charge down the straightaway. Zhang fires it in. Taylor on the door, moving into outer zone 1. He closes the gap. Transitions on the bumper into outer zone 2. Anthony Taylor mimicking the lead step for step. Power alley. Zhang keeps it on track and 4. D-cells. Anthony Taylor falling behind a little bit. Dives on the door in outer zone 5. Zhang looking solid, but kicks dust up in outer zone 6. Puts a tire off track. Coming into that final outer zone, Anthony Taylor puts it right on the door of the lead. All right, here we go. We've got them switched out. Lights are lit, and they are off. Anthony Taylor through the chicane. Zhang in chase. Fires the car in. A90 Supra. Little tap from the chase. Oh, a second tap from the chase again. Anthony, full throttle through the power alley. Gets all of outer zone 4. RX-8 trying to do the work to stay behind him, and he does. Gets on the door as they transition through outer 6. Anthony, nice controlled rotation as they come into the final zone. Anthony just needs to maintain. Zhang falls out of angle, and Anthony drives away from him and potentially into the series. All right, and judges do have a decision. Super close battle. Anthony Taylor going to be taking the win. Unfortunately, Zhang with a big mistake going into the final outer zone. And here we come to our final battle of the 2025 CNDS Drivers Search. We're going to have Stephen Hawkenall leading Cody Kremsitter. He's coming. All right, so final battle, CNDS 2025 Drivers Search. They're coming to the start line. We're going to have Stephen Hawkenall leading Cody Kremsitter, S15 400Z. The lights are lit and they are off. Both cars come through the chicane. One car comes through the chicane, the other does not. They come down the chute. Steve chucks it in outer zone 1. Cody needs to make up a little ground. Steve starting to drive away from him again at the power alley. Hits outer zone 4. Tire drop lead. Cody diving up onto the front tire, a little ahead of the lead car there. Steven looking good coming across that next outer zone into the clip. Decels into that final zone and launches it. Both cars waver a bit coming into the final zone. All right, let's get them switched around for that final half of the battle. All right, here we go. We've got them switched around. Second half of the battle. The lights are lit. Let's send them. Down the chute they go. Cody, Nissan Z. Steven, S15. Throws it in outer one. Cody drops a tire. Little shallow in outer zone 3. Little shallow in outer zone 4. Steven really needing to make up some ground. 2 tires off. Oh no, and the lead takes a trip to Dairy Queen. That'll be a DQ, and Steven Ockenhall will be able to waltz right through that final outer zone and into the series. Judges will just do a quick review, but I'm pretty sure that one is cut and dry. All right, and it looks like we do have our decision. Steven Ockenhall gonna take the win. And that is going to be our last battle of the 2025 CNDS Driver Search. Thank you to all of the viewers for hanging out with us on this beautiful Saturday afternoon as we narrowed down our 32 drivers that will be joining the already existing 32 driver field for the CNDS 2025 season. Once again, I have been your host, Paul Mox, on behalf of CNDS and all of our sponsors, Drift HQ, Boundless Racing, Hannah Motors, Temple Productions, Geronimo Designs, Moxie Media, and our official partner, Virtual Drift Championship. We thank you, and we will see you very soon for the beginning of the 2025 Concept Drift Series season. We are out.